490 and 20 kilometers, now medium gray, not visible, drifting low, correct?
Correct. I would say now it's, I'd say medium gray, heavy gray. Over.
Thanks for that. Updated, please, if the smoke changes. Thanks. 20 clear.
Hack 1, 247, over.
Hack 120, go ahead.
Yeah, just let you know I'm en route. Just wondering what they using for a ground channel on that fire out in Mid-2.
Yeah, it turns out there's actually nobody on the ground right now. They're using air advisory 1289 or 5. Air attack is Bird Dog 54, and we have 5 different aircraft on their way.
Then confirm that we have homes still to be evacuated.
That fire is headed directly at houses in there.
Okay, all right, we got the RCMP on the way.
As a person that, fought fire that night, and the next morning, on Monday morning, sitting there on the 16th of May, I couldn't even imagine, I couldn't even fathom in my wildest dreams that we would be where we are today. Like, it wouldn't even seem possible. And to see it now, it's very surreal. Like, it took a lot of work and time and commitment, and my family can speak to that a lot, I can tell you. It's just a bunch of people that love this place and want to make it better, and they keep doing that every day. And I got to be very proud to be part of that.
FireSmart is a program, and it's sort of an approach to mitigating the risk of wildfire within a community. The town of Slave Lake and our region as a whole, obviously we're in the middle of the forest, and inherently there's a risk with that. And so the FireSmart program has 7 principles that a community can adopt to help us to mitigate that and minimize the risk. Everything from going out into the bush and looking at reducing some of those fuels, some of that vegetation that fire seems to love, all the way down to emergency management planning and how we as residents, as community members, can live FireSmart in our everyday lives.
Our ops section we broke into search and rescue, medical, security, and utilities.
It took us a while to understand it. It took us a while to see the benefit, but I think once we did, a lot of things started to click and it started to make sense. And a big part of it is education. Back in the day, nobody knew what a smoke detector was, and it wasn't a big deal, but through a lot of education, now it's commonplace. You wouldn't imagine your life without it. And so then legislation plays a part in it. How as a town grows, as the First Nation grows, as the MD grows, how are those things going to work, and then how can we incorporate FireSmart into it?
I want to work at getting the FireSmart regulations into the land use bylaw and the municipal development plan.
So we have 2 programs at the national level. We have the FireSmart Community Protection Achievement Award. Great example that we're about to recognize the Lesser Slave FireSmart Committee for the tremendous efforts and steps that they have taken to complete a FireSmart plan, develop a mitigation strategy, and successfully implement solutions.
Thank you to everybody for coming today. We're really pleased to be here and extremely proud of the accomplishment that this community has had.
Martin Beach was recognized under the FireSmart or Community Recognition Program.
Smile.
So in that case, we're actually recognizing private landowners for their efforts to complete a FireSmart hazard assessment with their local FireSmart representative, then develop a plan, and on their own, start to implement solutions.
There's kind of gaps between the shingles and that.
Oh, yeah.
Where the wood is exposed.
Right.
That's what we get worried about, is the burning embers from an advancing fire.
But we do have to look forward in terms of how do we continue to sustain those programs over time. Eventually, we are going to have to look at ways to maybe generate some revenue to keep it going. And I think we have a community and a committee that are committed to looking at how do we continue to sustain FireSmart into the future.
Every day when I come to work and I walk into this fire hall, I look at the trucks that are here and I look at the people, and that's all changed, right? We had to look at how are we going to be part of this. So it's not just, you know, being the fire hall in Slave Lake, it's being part of the regional fire service, and the regional fire service fitting in with the, you know, the regional forest district, and then how does the regional forest district fit in with the province of Alberta? And when you start to expand your view out to what can we do, what can we have, not just to help ourselves, but to help the other people. All of a sudden it becomes more clear the type of equipment you have, the way you have to get it, the way you have to train, the people you have to train with. And you start to put that all together, and all of a sudden you're in Little Slave Lake and you can be a help to anybody in the province, anywhere, anytime. And so to me, when I come to work every day and I look at this stuff and I look at the training and the people, that's what I see, is how can we be part of the bigger picture?
So what makes this truck unique is it's not your typical structural fire engine, and it's not your typical wildland fire engine. It's a bit of both. So this truck in particular has got pump and roll capabilities, so it allows us to drive and pump water through the front deck gun or the ground sweeps, as well as a quick attack booster reel. On top of that, it's all-wheel drive, so we can kind of get into some hairier places. It's set up a little bit higher, and the gear loadout we carry kind of works well for both structure fires and wildfires. So way to think of this is kind of our initial attack truck. So right away you'll notice how we have our first compartment set up here. We've got both. We've got a lot of fittings and nozzles, adapters for structural firefighting and wildland firefighting. So what we've really strived to achieve here is build a crew that really lives in both worlds. So we can contract the forestry in times of high hazard as a heli-attack crew to them. So we get the wildland side of things, we get the same training they do, we get the same man-up action they do, all of that. As well as when we're not with them, you know, we're maintaining our other, you know, FireSmart principles by keeping up all the vegetation management, the education and whatnot, as well as being members of this fire service. So everybody's trained up to the structural 1001 level and then some. Medical training, EMRs, every one of the guys on the crew, you know, and the wildland training is much the same. So.
So this is our sprinklers. Is there a difference between the sprinklers on flow and circumference area that they cover?
Yeah, for sure. It all depends on pressure, what you're running with them, but obviously we've got the larger rainbirds and the smaller rainbirds, but definitely the larger rainbirds get the better coverage.
Okay, and you use those for keeping the fire away from important structures and the community?
Yeah, so structure protection, placing them right on structures. You can beef up fire breaks with them.
So I see we have an assortment of hoses, everything from 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch. I know that Sawridge First Nation is preparing kits for each individual residence, a preparedness kit in case of an emergency, to complement the trailers and stuff that we're using.
What is the roof on this house?
You know, we have the creek here, very defendable for sure.
When you're trying to make a change in what people's behaviors are, it's always a slow process, but we're definitely seeing that in our community. And we're also really recognizing that if we can take some of these resources and programs that we've been able to develop because of the funding that we've received after the fire, those resources then can be shared across the province. Some of the programs that we've developed are actually becoming provincial standards for FireSmart education, like the Junior Officer Program, the Magnetic Board.
And what happened to these pine cones is they were in a wildfire. And the wildfire lets the pine tree to open up its cones and for the seeds to fall out.
It's really been exciting to see some of the resources that we've developed sort of going beyond our community. They actually did a really neat survey after the fire, or study after the fire, looking at the community of Slave Lake and Kelowna after the fire, and were people making more FireSmart choices in how they built their homes. And Slave Lake had definitely more of a change. We were much more FireSmart in how we rebuilt our homes. We're hoping that that has something to do with the programs we did. Probably what we heard more was this huge fire happened, and obviously it was, devastating for our community. It'll never happen again. What are the odds? So why do I need to FireSmart? Because it isn't going to happen again. It was the 1 in a million chance. But living up here in the boreal forest, fire is it's a part of our natural ecosystem. Even this last summer, Wabasca had evacuations. I mean, we're always going to have that threat of wildfire if we're living in a community surrounded by forest. And you asked if we're seeing changes. It was interesting when people are hearing those alerts now, or when they're hearing about a community being evacuated, everyone knows what to do now. They're fire-smarting their house at the last minute as they go. They're putting their sprinklers out. So people know the actions now, and they're much quicker to implement them.
Chair makes a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Anybody opposed? That's carried.
Before this fire and FireSmart got us working together in all these different projects, we didn't know our neighbors. As far as the First Nations here, we knew who they were, the town. We worked with them when we had to. Now we work with them because we want to. We actually do really get along. It's not just we're not trying to create the perception we get along. We actually do.
When something happens, we have our logistics division, we have our ops division, and the difference between how we work.
I believe the communications is 100% better than it was prior to 2011. Since the fires of 2011, there's been several wildfires that have happened in the past, and I get a direct phone call from the regional fire chief. He's been really good at keeping us in the loop, keeping us informed. We're working on our emergency response plans and sharing with each other, so in the event of another emergency, we're going to be well coordinated.
5 or 6 big large trees hitting the ground, so that's going to become an issue.
Yeah.
And it being this close, I was wondering if that might be something you might want to look at.
The event had really opened everybody's eyes to say, this is affecting everybody, not just one community, and we'll have to work together to ensure that in the event it happens again, we're not going to have the chaos that we had seen in 2011.
It was a reality check. It was a wake-up call that we're not as invincible as we think we are, and it takes some good planning, it takes some good management practices, it takes some good coordination to do a better job with that, and I think that we've done a fantastic job with it. I think our emergency preparedness, I would struggle to find another community or region that's more prepared than we would be. I think you'd struggle to find another region that would have the collaboration and cooperation that we have.
This is a routine test of the MD of Lesser Slave River Emergency Notification System.
In the event of an emergency, I would be able to provide mapping for emergency services, as well as put out a Alberta emergency alert and do the mass notification system.